So there's a saying or a truism that from small seeds, great and terrible things can grow. Uh, the fleas that are on the rats can carry the Black Death into Europe, or the discovery of the compass can allow for the transatlantic slave trade, or any number of seemingly small little details can rapidly growth spiral into horrible and unforeseen conclusions. And the horrible and unforeseen conclusion we're going to talk about today has to do with something that is really just confined to pen and paper, but is also uniquely Venetian, that then became universal. And of course, like the Black Death or the transatlantic slave trade, we are going to talk about the double entry bookkeeping system and how it doomed us all and plunged us into late stage capitalism, and how we can thank Venice for that. The Venetians, as we may have discussed, were prolific traders and liked to keep track of profits on the one hand and losses on the other. They were very assiduous about this, and after enough time they started making a standardized system of keeping track of what they lost and what they gained. This, is not uncommon in societies with heavy merchant focuses, right? Like the Phoenicians had a good sense of what they were gaining and what they were losing, but they didn't use double entry because they were Phoenicians and not Venetians. And this sort of tendency, this building up of a system of viewing profit and loss, stayed in Venice for quite some time, actually. Venice, you have to remember, is one of the major trading powers for the majority of its 1,000-year reign through the Adriatic and Mediterranean. There wasn't anywhere Venice couldn't go besides the New World, but we're going to get on that later. So the double entry bookkeeping system is very ordinary to us now. There are apps that convert, just put in your expenses for the month and you'll see whether you're making a profit or a loss. It is very normal. It was not very normal for a long time, up until the Victorian era, in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. The Venetian method of double entry bookkeeping was called, I think it was the Italian method, right? And it was viewed as this quaint, interesting way of bookkeeping, but it also goes to something deeper. I think it's Robbins, in his History of Venice, says that there's something a bit more sinister about the double entry method of bookkeeping, which is the effect it has on the mind. What I mean by that is double entry bookkeeping is kind of the kick in the pants that capitalism as a global force uses to get its major impetus in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. It stops being the Venetian system or the Italian method and starts propagating through Europe and the Americas, and then eventually to every industrialized country. Robbins, to get back to him, talks about the idea of looking at human beings as living profit or loss-making machines that comes with the double entry method of bookkeeping and advanced capitalism. None of this happens without Venice's deliberate encouragement and building of this cult of profit and loss. We can see all around us the wages of unrestrained capitalism, which Venice would have, in its heyday, loved and then hated, because that same unregulated capitalism that focused on profit and loss has come back around and boomeranged on Venice specifically through tourism and the tourist industry and the ecological destruction of the lagoon and the planet writ large, which brings us back to our primary point, which is from from small things, great and terrible things grow. Which is, I think, quite a bit to extrapolate from simply arranging numbers on a page to the destruction of a city and a planet.